to the first sustainability shot that the Sustainable Business Council has put together. We've been providing lectures in the community for approximately 8 years now. The Sustainability Shot series that we just started is designed to give people a concentrated shot of information and a chance to ask experts questions about things that are specifically barriers to them right now in developing sustainable business practices. One of the things we've noted, we've been doing some workshops to introduce people into sustainability practices. One of the most commonly asked questions at our workshop is, how do I do marketing? I don't want to be greenwashing, but I want to be able to talk about my products and services in an intelligent way with my customers. So this particular sustainability shot is targeted at that particular issue or problem. The format for tonight will be that we're going to spend about 15 to 20 minutes listening to our speaker, and then we're going to open up the floor for you guys to have 40 minutes to get your specific questions answered. I wanted to let you know that this particular event is co-sponsored by the Sustainable Business Council and Montana World Trade Center. And we need to give a special thanks to the U of M School of Business, who helped us arrange the logistics for the food and beverages out front, and we also get to use their wonderful facility. And also to MCAT, who is here taping this. It will actually be aired on MCAT twice coming up in the next few weeks. So we want to give a special thanks to both of those folks. All of you should have a card in front of you that talks about the upcoming sustainability shots that we will have and other lectures and events we'll have. Our next event is actually a lecture on March 11th, and that particular lecture will be an introduction to the greenhouse gas inventory that is being, as we speak, finalized and put into a final form to be presented to the community. This will be one of the first places that Robin Saha, the university professor here, who headed up the student group that did that inventory, it'll be one of the first places he introduces it. So we hope you'll all join us on March 11th to hear Robin Saha. That will be over at Office Solutions and Services, 1020 North Avenue, which is over by Trember Shopping Center and the post office there. They have a very nice set of rooms downstairs we'll be using for that event. So we hope you'll join us there. Our speaker today is Nicole Hagerman. She is a program manager here at the Montana World Trade Center, and she's been working not only with helping Montana companies market internationally, but she also specifically works with the group known as their Environmental Consortium, and that is engineering and environmental firms who are trying to sell their products overseas and also in Montana. And so she's got some real clear experience working with environmentally related issues. She's also a sourcing and compliance consultant for Overstock.com. She was their director for international sourcing from 2002 to 2007. She's currently helping them develop and implement their environmental and socially responsible strategy. So again, another area where she's been working with this clearly. She is a director for WorldStock.com, and their mission is to help artisans in developing countries establish sustainable businesses by selling their products at fair wages. She's also done some work with a variety of universities, including Harvard and Westminster, to develop classes with regards to social entrepreneurship, and the list goes on. I'll let Nicole add anything else that she feels like is very relevant that you should know, but I'm going to go ahead and bring her up now and let her tell you some more about what makes a green product and how you talk to customers and consumers about that. Nicole Hagerman.
Well, first, thanks everyone for being here. It's kind of fun to talk about this, and it's exciting to know that this many people are actually interested in it. So I'm thrilled to be here. Just to preface the evening a little bit, I definitely prefer the dialogue, so I'll try to keep this short and sweet in the beginning and then open it up to questions. We have a lot of great people in the room who have experience on this subject, so I don't just want to limit it to myself. This is a very broad category and a big subject, and it's kind of gray is how I describe it. So there's a lot of different expertise in the room, and so I encourage anyone else who has experience or knowledge on this industry to please speak up. I think it would make for a healthy conversation. And just to go into a little bit in terms of why I'm standing up here with the World Trade Center, we work with Montana companies in particular, looking at their supply chain and getting them into international markets. And now with sustainability and environmental compliance being such a huge part of manufacturing, that's the role that we play here, as well as some of the consulting work I do is kind of why I'm standing up here. But again, there's a lot of expertise in the room and within our community, so I certainly encourage everyone to leverage that. So what is green, I think is the first thing. You hear earth-friendly, eco-friendly, environmentally friendly, sustainable, green. Which term do you even use? What do these mean? And I think the thing that's so interesting is it's used interchangeably, and this definition is based on the priority and the value system of that company using it. So I think the key thing is you have to know what's important to you and what your values are as a company before you start using these terms. Because there is no standard and because there is no definition, you're creating that. So you have to know what it means to you as a company first of all. This has really grown from an easy marketing message into a movement that must communicate a business value. I think this is the key thing that has happened, is you can't just say you're green or you're environmentally friendly or you have a low carbon footprint. You can't just say those things anymore. You actually have to validate them. And this is something that's happening on every level, from the manufacturer not knowing what it is to the retailer and down to the consumer. So you have these two groups right here trying to figure out what it is while the consumer is the one driving it. So some of the things we've seen that have really pushed this movement, the sales of environmentally oriented products have increased significantly while other products and sales are decreasing. We're seeing either a steady or an incline. Consumer demand remains strong even though our economic downturn. The education and outreach of environmentally friendly and green is becoming more mainstream. This is a term that most consumers have heard. Regulation, this is something that is coming down more rapidly, and I think a term that I like to use is kind of a race to the top. Who's going to be the first one to come up with a regulation or some sort of standard that everyone can follow? There's some pending things going on in the US on a manufacturer and a retail level, and then there's also some established standards in the EU that are very specific to a type of industry. So it'll be really fascinating to kind of see what practices are being implemented on the US and on what levels and what actually is going to take hold, I guess, so to speak. Oh, this was something I found really interesting on the consumer level is McKinsey did a survey, a quarterly survey, and 61% of consumers feel that businesses have to lead the way for environmental movement, and that it's the business's responsibility, that consumers, while they'll buy the products, the businesses have to be the ones to lead the way. So what is a green consumer and what do they look like? I wanted to put this up here because to me the most fascinating thing about this slide is that you've got 84% of the market that has some interest in this. You've got your LOHAs, which are your extreme to the right, so or I guess it would be to the left, who are environmental stewards in every day of the way they shop, the way they consume products, their lifestyle. Everything about them has some component of environmental stewardship in it. And then you've got your naturalites who are more concerned about health. They're buying organic products. Your drifters are people who want to be green, who want to be environmentally friendly, but they're easily persuaded by price and by convenience. Your conventionals are your consumers who recycle their plastic, turn off their lights, but I wouldn't say they implement it to their core, so to speak. And then you've got 16% of the market unconcerned. So I think this is pretty fascinating that we've come to a point in our consumer marketplace where 84% of the consumers have this as a concern.
What's a LOHA?
LOHA, it stands, oh shoot. Lifestyles, we're our experts. Thank you. So your consumers are asking, we're getting to this point because it is more stream, the consumers are asking, what do these claims mean? Can I really justify this expense? how is this better for me, for my family, and am I being tricked by these green labels? And this is really, I think, substantiating some of the greenwashing claims and the reputations of companies. And it's driving what we're seeing start to mold as some sort of standards in this industry. You've got the FTC and the US EPA. They've produced their green guides, which is a lot about the marketing messaging. So if you have to clearly state X, Y, and it kind of outlines 3 or 4 points about the messaging of your environmental claims. And then you've got the environmental industries, the outdoor retail industries coming up with their own index that says based on the type of material, and they have their own components that's very specific to their industry. We've got the Sustainability Consortium. This is largely driven by Walmart. This is a pretty fascinating group in what they're doing. They're looking at it from a purely metrically driven system, which I'll show a little bit. Actually, I'll just finish this and show you. And then you've got the GRI, which is the Global Reporting Initiative. This again is more about if social responsibility, environmental responsibility, kind of a corporate communication strategy. The GRI is a guideline for companies to follow when producing these reports. Your Carbon Disclosure Project, that is, again, a way of communicating what a company is doing. If companies are measuring their carbon footprint, then this is a project largely with retailers for them to say, we're part of the Carbon Disclosure Project, this is how much we produce, we're measuring, we're monitoring, and we're doing things to improve it. So all these really just become systems and tools for measuring, reporting, and communicating. They are by no means a standard. They're just a tool for communication and some sort of guideline. To show you really quickly, just an example of the Sustainability Consortium of what they're doing. They're looking at, this is an assessment, an index assessment of laundry detergent. So what they're doing is they're looking at every single component of laundry detergent and saying, what is the environmental impact of every single component? And they're starting to group it so that at the end, once they go through the entire process, from the very beginning to the raw materials, to the manufacturing, to the use, the actual use of the product, to once it's done, what do you do with the plastic? So the entire life cycle of that product, what is the impact? And ultimately, they're looking at a scoring metric for the consumer, and that's kind of the long-term goal of this project. It is the only project that is looking mostly at, to my knowledge, again, there's a lot of things going on, that is looking purely at metrics to drive this, where it's not subjective to someone's definition or terminology. It's purely based on data. I've participated in a couple of these meetings, and it's really interesting. You get the sense that they want to be the first ones to get some sort of system done. Whether it's Walmart, the Sustainability Consortium, there's definitely this race to the top of who will be the first one to drive this entire reporting metric that everyone will start to follow. Let's see. Okay. So this is what's kind of the outcome of no standards. We are all, as consumers, as manufacturers, retailers, we're in this eco-label storm, and we don't know what any of this means. And we're trying really hard to figure it out on the consumer level and on the manufacturer and retail level. And so whether you're a manufacturer or retailer, you're trying to figure out, do I incorporate these standards into my practice, or do I develop my own, or do I have a hybrid of both? And as a consumer, you're trying to figure out, well, what does this even mean? And is it important to me? And why is this label more or better than this label? I mean, it becomes really, really complex. And you can understand why the consumer is so confused. So with all of that, what I wanted to do was put together some kind of best practices, companies who are kind of considered the creme de la creme of environmental responsibility. What are they doing? What is the industry kind of driving as best practices and guidelines for how you as a company or as a consumer can be on top of this? The biggest thing is to know your product's impacts and the level to what extent those impacts are. Reviewing the complete supply chain. I think that's one of the things as a retailer, they look at, okay, well, what's my carbon footprint? If you're an actual retailer, then it's the energy that you consume. But if you're a manufacturer, then you're looking at the raw materials. And it's knowing that association with all of it and kind of where you stand. Again, going back to the very beginning, what's important to you? What are your value systems as a company, whether you're a retailer or manufacturer? Being transparent. I think transparency is the buzzword within sustainability. You're seeing it a lot, and it's becoming, I guess, the next green. And I think it has some validity to it because it becomes very simple. If you're transparent about every step along the way, it becomes very easy for the consumer to make the decision. And I think that's where the sustainability index is going, and I think that's where a lot of these are going, is simply providing transparency, not allowing a label to say what's right or wrong, but ultimately letting the end consumer make the decision based on what's important to them and their value system. Independent verification. I think one of the things that is kind of neat coming out of these labels is there are organizations that are saying, yes, we've actually looked at this product, we've looked at the entire supply chain, we've looked at what you've done, and you actually are doing what you're saying. And I think the validation process and these standards that come out, so like you have the Ford Steward Council and you've got a bunch of other ones saying, this is our standard within our industry and we're going to put our stamp on it. And that's actually creating some validity to the product itself, the process, and it's allowing the consumer to grab on to something. But rather than you as a company saying, this is what I'm doing and it's great, it allows for somebody else, and I think that's the best form of marketing. Avoid irrelevant claims. Some of these are fairly obvious. I think one of the things that's neat is enable the consumer to act. You're seeing a lot of retailers in particular allowing their customers to, like for example, recycle their electronics at their store. If you're buying a refrigerator, then you need to replace your other one. What do you do with that? Well, if you take it back to that retail location, they'll get rid of it for you. They'll make sure that all the components are disposed in a proper way. And I think that's one of the things that adds credibility to a company is allowing your consumers to engage and enact consumers to act in kind of the role in what you're doing. Fold the future into the present. I read this great article that said if you're looking at the present and trying to design your sustainability program around the present, you're going to miss it completely. You have to look to the future. You have to look to where innovation is going, how people are going to be getting this information. I think one of the things in the retail we're looking at is how are consumers going to be reading information about sustainability. They're going to be scanning their phone on a product that says, here's all the environmental impacts of this product, and then making a decision right there at the point of sale. So if you've designed your product with this neat marketing message around your packaging, you've completely missed the boat because it's all going to be electronic. And if you have a pretty package, then you've got your competitors with these metrics that are giving very detailed information about the product, and you've completely missed it. So you've really got to think in the future, where is this going? Where are the regulations going? Where is my industry going? And how can I play a role in that? Understand the customer and target the customer in different ways. I think within this space, I mean, you saw that chart of 4 or 5 different market groups just within green. So you're going to market very differently to your LOHAs than you are your drifters. Price is going to be important where environmental stewardship is going to be important to your LOHAs. So you have to, I think, be able to market your product in a way that gets to your end consumer. And if you have multiple consumers, know that there's a different strategy to get to each one of those. Anticipate change and regulation. Again, this is going back to all those standards that are out there. Which one is your industry going for? You've got, as I mentioned, the outdoor industry looking at, maybe they're not going to go with the sustainability consortium. They're kind of leaning towards their own. They've been involved in this for 5 or 6 years. They don't really necessarily want to shift. What's going to happen and where are you as a company going to go? Are you going to go within your industry or are you going to go with something much more mainstream? Participate in the rulemaking. I think this is key to know where your industry is looking and what are some of the regulations that are coming about and what are the raw materials that are no longer going to be acceptable. Is one of your main ingredients something that's going to be banned in the EU, and is that a major distribution market for you? So I think if you're involved in the regulation process, you've set yourself up to be prepared for the future. This is one of the things you see is you can quickly tell, in my opinion, you can tell the companies who are simply marketing green and who really are doing the right thing. And it's very obvious in their long-term strategy. It's something that's embedded in their corporate culture. It's clear in everything that they do, from their website to their product marketing to their financial reports, everything. It's very clear that it's something that's important to them, and it's in their long-term strategy. One of the things I say is being green is not enough. You can't just market it, and it can't be the component of your product that you're selling. It's really your third trigger. Quality and price and value always have to be the main thing of a product. And it just so happens that it's environmentally friendly, or it just so happens that you do this really cool thing with agriculture or sustainably harvesting your products. So it is kind of that other component. You may emphasize that in what you do, but it can't be the everything of what you do. It definitely is that third trigger. So moving forward, I think some of the things that I try to reinforce is just knowing your impacts of the product and the supply chain. I think this is key. I think you have to know every piece of it and really be intelligent and be educated about what's going on in your industry and what your suppliers are doing. Again, standards and regularization, be involved, be prepared. This levels of green, I think there's a couple different websites that do this really well. They say, here's our product, and here's our scale of green. This product is on this end of green, and this product is on this. And I think that's really smart, because it is so vague and it is so undefined that if you're just really open about it and say, well, this just comes from recycled materials. Well, this product comes from recycled materials from a factory that's run on wind energy, that you can recycle the fabric at this drop location and they'll turn it back into something else. I mean, so there really is this full gamut of products. And I think if you just tell the customer that, hey, we're on this end. It's kind of nice that we've been able to find these raw materials that we can recycle. Or, wow, we're all the way on this end. So I think, being open and transparent about this level of green is, I think, of value to the customer, in my opinion. There is so much noise in this marketplace in green that I think the key is not to try to compete with everything out there that's green, but just to really focus in on what's important to your customer, and not changing, not redesigning based on where the market is going or what this trend may be, but again, coming back to your core value as a company and doing something that's right for you as an organization that, again, happens to be the right thing and happens to benefit your customers. And then the validation. I think anytime you can get the third-party certification into what you're doing and how you can be involved really validates what